What's up guys, it's Kelly and today I've got another swatch review for you. So today we are talking about OPI's new Downtown LA collection for fall 2021. We've got 12 brand new polishes, mostly in a cream formula, but we've got a couple specialty finishes in there as well. If you haven't heard of OPI before, they are a mainstream salon brand that is 3-free, meaning they are free of 3 of the potentially harmful ingredients that can be often found in nail polish. We just recently saw them release their brand new Nature Strong line, which I did do a review on with all 30 colors, but this time we are back to their regular formula. So I don't want to spoil my thoughts on these. Let me show you guys the swatches first, and then I'm going to tell you how I feel about them and also talk about pricing and availability. So roll the footage. So as with all of my swatch and review videos, I am going to be using base coat underneath all of my swatches just to protect my natural nail and prevent any stains. Today I am using the Orly base coat. So first up in the collection we have the shade 7th and Flower, and this is a nice deep fuchsia cream shade, so it's got that nice pinky tone to it. It's also a little bit on the deeper side, and as you can see, it is fully opaque on me in one coat. Now I do have short nails, they're actually a little bit longer than usual in this swatch and review, but I thought the opacity was just really impressive on these. Since OPI is thin, even their one coaters, I generally like to do 2 coats on, but I thought it looked absolutely gorgeous on the nails. The color itself is nice and pretty. It's a nice standard deep fuchsia color. Next up we have a classic shade for OPI. This one is called Art Walk in Susie's Shoes, and as you can see, it is this classic cherry red color, and this one is actually in that jelly-like formula that they tend to have, but this one was actually also really opaque. Even though it did have that squishy, almost sheer jelly-like feel to it, it did end up covering up my visible nail line in the first coat, which I thought was really impressive. It's definitely bright, it's definitely like a classic red color, something that OPI does often, but they do it well, so I'm always happy to add another one to my collection. This was 2 coats and it looked gorgeous on. Next up we have the shade Espresso Your Inner Self, and this one is a nice medium brown cream shade. This one actually also had a little bit of that jelly-like feel to it. It's definitely on the warmer side, but it still feels pretty neutral. It's sort of that hot cocoa kind of color we have going on here, and I thought this one was a little bit sheer in the first coat just because of that slight jelly-like feel to it, but it did give me full coverage in the second. Again, OPI is a really nice, very self-leveling formula. It's extremely beginner-friendly, so I always recommend it if you're getting started, but it's also really great for people who love nail polish. Next up we have the shade Metallic Composition. This one I was actually really excited about when I saw it in the bottle. It's this really beautiful rose gold metallic foil shade. This one did not end up being as opaque as I sort of expected. It was pretty sheer in the first coat, so I did need that second coat to get full coverage, and while I thought it looked really pretty on the full nail, I always get a little bit disappointed when foil shades aren't one coaters, just because I always like to use them in nail art and especially for stamping, and I just don't think that this one is going to be good for that because it's a little bit too sheer, but it's still pretty on the full nail. Next up we have the shade My Studios on Spring. This is another one I was really excited about, but this one did not disappoint me at all. It's a really beautiful, very cool toned green cream that actually leans almost blue. So it's got a little bit of this teal turquoisey color going on, but it still has that nice hint of greenness to it. It was a little bit sheer on the first coat. It was almost that full coverage, but it did give me full coverage on the second. And again, it just had that classic, very easy to work with OPI formula, and the color is just so beautiful. This definitely feels like a color I would wear year round, but it definitely feels right for fall and winter. Next up we have the shade Isn't It Grand Avenue? And this one is a navy blue, almost indigo cream shade, and again this one does have a little bit of that jelly-like feel to it, that sort of sheer, very squishiness it has going on, so it was a little bit sheer in the first coat. In the second coat I was able to get that full coverage, and I feel like it also deepened the color a little bit more. I like that there's that almost purpley tone going on to it, but it does look like a nice navy blue. I really like shades like this. Sometimes in deeper lighting they even look black, and that's just a fun way to wear your nail polish, especially during the darker seasons like fall and winter, so I definitely enjoyed this one as well. Next up we have the shade Abstract After Dark, and I have a feeling that that name is a reference to Linkin Park After Dark, which is one of their most popular nail polishes, so because of that I was really really excited, but this one's a really interesting shade. It's like a very purpley eggplant base color, and then it has this duochrome shimmery flake running throughout that looks blue head on, but then around the edges it looks very warm pinky purple, and even in the bottle you see a little bit of gold as well. So because my nail is head on, it does look mostly blue, but this is a very shifty and fun color. It did need 2 coats to get to full opacity, but I feel like it was another really easy formula. Next up we have the shade Violet Visionary, and this one is a nice medium toned, very warm purple cream shade. A little bit sheer in that first coat, didn't give me that full coverage, but I did get the full coverage in the second coat, and I feel like this is just a nice classic shade to have. I don't necessarily reach for these colors in the fall and winter. I feel like this feels like more of a springy shade to me, but I mean, these kinds of colors you can really wear any time of year, so no complaints from me. You guys know I love a purple nail polish. Next up we have the shade Angel's Flight to Starry Nights, and this one's actually really interesting. So it's this nice sky blue color, and it actually has a holographic shimmer running throughout, and the reason that this one is interesting is because I feel like the holo in here is a little bit different from what I'm used to. I know OPI has done a formula like this before, and the formula itself is really nice, the color is really pretty, but the holo in there is very tricky in the sense that it doesn't show up in most lighting. I feel like I only get to see the holographic color in actual natural sunlight, which I do not have here. So I did try to turn on my flashlight, which is what this final shot is. You can see it a tiny bit on the upper left-hand side, but it still wasn't as like crazy holographic as indie shades can be. Next up we have the shade OPI Heart DTLA. This one is a really beautiful, dusty periwinkle, almost gray cream shade, and let me tell you, I was not expecting to love this shade as much as I do, but my goodness, is it perfect. It was almost a one coater. It's so soft and like wintry feeling. I love that grayed out blue purple color. I feel like this is the perfect base for nail art, but it's just so pretty on its own for like a nice rainy day. This is just giving me all the fall and winter vibes. Next up we have the shade Graffiti Sweetie. This is another one that definitely gives me all those fall and winter feels. I would describe this one as an almost grayish color. There's a little bit of a beiginess to it. There's a little bit of a grayed out feeling to it. And there's also a little bit of a pinky undertone going on here. But it definitely has that sort of fall, dusty coloring. And the formula was absolutely incredible. It was actually almost opaque in the first coat, but it did give me full coverage on the second. And you can see it just leveled out so nice and smoothly on my nail. It looks absolutely perfect. And finally, we have the shade Pink on Canvas, and this one is a nice blush pink cream shade. You can see this one was also extremely opaque. It was almost opaque in that first coat. I did need that second to get the full coverage, but it looked really beautiful on. This color in the bottle, I will say, it did surprise me a little bit, which I'll explain a little bit more at the end, but I do want to also note it does dry slightly darker than it looks in the bottle. So you can see that pinky color deepening up a tiny bit once it dries. It's not a very significant difference, but just something to keep in mind. So yeah, here are all the shades together, and I have to say, at first glance, I was not actually a huge fan of these colors together. I think specifically because of the bottom row. I do especially like those two middle shades in the bottom row, and I think they're really perfect for this time of year, but all together, those were really giving me a very strong spring vibe. They almost looked like those pastel-y spring kind of shades that we get, and because of that, I was not too thrilled about this collection. But looking at it now, I do think that the colors are actually really pretty, and individually all of them worked really well. All of them are really nice colors. I'm not sure how I feel about the color story. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it in the outro, but yeah, a lot of really good formulas here. We have a few that really stood out to me, but overall, I don't know. So yeah, those are the polishes, and I have to say, I do love the colors individually, and I love the polishes individually. I think they have really good formulas. I love the OPI opacity. Their brush is actually my favorite. But that being said, I feel like the color story overall isn't terribly interesting for me. And I always have a hard time saying stuff like that just because I know that most people aren't buying for the full collection and for the look of the full collection. A lot of people are just buying polishes individually, but I feel like ever since they came out with their fall 2020 collection, which was actually my favorite nail polish collection that came out in 2020. I've just been comparing everything they're doing to that, and I feel like that color story was perfection. Every single color individually was perfection. I just loved everything about it. So obviously I'm going to compare this year's fall collection to last year's fall collection, but without that comparison, I do think it's really good. And again, I love the colors individually. I think they're really pretty. I think the formulas are really great. There's really no going wrong with picking out any of these shades. I just personally don't feel as inspired by them together as I did with last year's collection. They were definitely heavy on the creams this collection, which personally I like. I love a good cream nail polish, and I think they're easier to use for nail art, stuff like that. But if you are a person who prefers more specialty finishes, they usually do a lot more in their winter/holiday collection, so definitely stay tuned for that. I will of course be reviewing it once it comes out. So these polishes are available wherever OPI is sold. I get mine from HB Beauty Bar, which is a nail polish retailer, and there the 15 milliliter bottles retail for $9 USD each. Plus you can use my discount code KELLI to get 22% off your order there. So I will link all of that down below so you can check that out if you're interested in picking them up. But with all that said, I want to hear from you guys. What do you think of this collection? How do you feel about the color story going on here? Do you actually like to buy your polishes in collection, or do you like to buy them individually? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments. We can chat about it. If you enjoy my swatch and review videos, please give this one a thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing. I put out new videos every Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday. Shout out to my Cosmic Admirals on Patreon, Amanda M, Braxton Scott, Rainbow J, and Jessica Taylor. I really appreciate your support, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye. Fun fact, by the way, I dyed my hair myself, and I feel like, I don't know if you can tell on camera, but it's an ombre. It took me forever. I was actually gonna do my whole head, and then I chickened out on doing that because I was like, I don't know if it's gonna turn out right, so I'll just test it on the one half. And it ended up, I think it turned out really cool. The only thing is, it took me several hours to do this because I was like doing each little strand with the 3 colors. But anyway, today's fun fact question comes from Patreon supporter Allison Lawrence, and Allison wants to know, other than your own, what is your favorite birthstone? My birthstone is a sapphire, but I really love aquamarines. So if you guys didn't know, I was born in July, which means my birthstone is a ruby, and I actually really love rubies. I love that they have that like pinky coloring to them because a pinky red is like my favorite hair color to have, and I just feel like it is a color that matches me pretty well. And I actually do occasionally wear a really beautiful ruby bracelet that Ryan gave me for the holidays. Absolutely love it. You see it in some of my videos, especially when it matches the whole vibe. But I actually don't really know any other birthstones. Like I don't know which ones are birthstones and which ones are just regular gems, so let me look it up really quick and then I will tell you. I just googled it and I just clicked on the first image, and it looks like there aren't as many that are actual like birthstones that I thought, because I recognize some of these names, but I'm like not 100% sure that they look like the way that they look in these pictures. But I guess there's also a lot of variations in stones. Oh my gosh, I don't know. I really like my birthstone. I guess I'm gonna go safe and just say probably diamond, which is April's birthstone. I feel like that's like the most neutral one, and that's the one that I know for sure what it looks like. And that's probably like the other type of stone that I would wear that's a birthstone. I feel like I do love all of the colors, but I am so, what's the word? I change my colors of myself so often that I feel like a lot of them wouldn't match with me, and the reason that I love ruby so much is because I always end up going back to that reddish pinky color. So yeah, I guess I would have to say diamonds for that one. But yeah, that is it. Let me know what your favorite is in the comments. We can chat about it, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!